All right, has everybody got something to eat, something to drink? Some water outside. All right, this next presentation is going to be about employee safety and security. I know there's been a lot of things that have been happening on the news here in the D.C. area, especially even around our location in the NoMa bid. So Mike Saylor is with DHS. He's also a member of our Facility Security Committee, and he'll explain how this relates to what he does as an additional duty. But we're also going to ask MPD and Transit PD to come in, so if y'all have any questions, y'all can ask that of them, and maybe we can find out a little bit more about, matter of fact, they're sitting back there, find out a little bit more about what's going on. Okay? Mike?
Good morning. I'm going to run through a few slides today. My goal is not to sit up here like Candace did a great job with the last presentation. I'm not a full-time expert who does this with everything I do in my work. My portfolio is quite diverse, and this is one of several duties that I have. The reason that I'm standing up here, though, is the same reason that you guys are in here. Because of some recent incidents that happened in our neighborhood, in our community, as a LSO, as someone who also has to walk to and from this area to get inside our building, our employees were asking questions. What do I need to do? What do I need to know? So as we started putting together a presentation for our employees, we brought it up at a facility security committee, which is a representative of each of the tenants in this building, talking about security issues. We told them what we were going to do. Every single tenant said we'd like to get in on that. Every one of our federal and local partners, many of which are sitting here in the back, said we want to get in on that. We want to make this a positive group, community atmosphere and outreach, and to show not the public meetings that take place when they do like the NoMa bid, public safety meetings, not the national night out that the law enforcement agencies are doing with the local community, but for us right here as employees within this NoMa neighborhood. So what I'm going to talk to you about is the information that I and a cohort, Scott Lamort from the second floor, what we've put together from our dealings with each of these individuals, each of these agencies, watching the news, and things that we've had from our training and backgrounds. So it's going to be a little more of a general presentation. If you have questions, by all means you can ask anytime. I'm going to go through the slides. We'll have a question session at the end, and whether it's myself or one of the partners, we'll gladly answer the questions you have at that point. I always like to start out with who are the people in your neighborhood, so to speak. Who are the people that make up the security or are responsible for the security here in our buildings? We've expanded our presentation to include not just the tenants of our building here at 131M, but we've also invited some folks who are also in 1200 First Street. So if they're here, I apologize briefly because we did not get the full coordination of all the slides. Most of it talks about 131M, but that is also the majority of our intended audience for today. People we have here are the Metropolitan Police Department. Got folks sitting on the side. I won't make them raise their hand and embarrass themselves much. We also have DHS, Protective Service. You have the Contract Guard Services. That includes two sets of guards. If you've noticed slightly different uniforms, where they sit up and take care of the lobbies and do the roving for us. We have Coastal International, and we also have Allied Barton. And then there's the Metro Transit Police. In addition to those what we call outside agencies, there are also employee responsibilities that are here. Within a federal building or in a federal workplace, it's always required that the highest or senior-ranking government employee serve as the designated official. And so we have a designated official that happens to be here in the EEOC for this building. We also have a facility security committee. We have an occupant emergency program, and then we have local security officers. If you're not familiar with those terms, I'll go over in a little more detail here in an upcoming slide. The main thing I want to talk to you about is risk management. and we've heard about incidents that are happening in our area, there is a risk to us coming to and from work and being at work. What I hear most of the time from my employees is, we feel safe right here in our building. It's getting to and from the building where we are concerned. So if you take a look at some of the risk management factors, there's 5 factors. There are your vulnerabilities, there are the threats that are out there, there are items that you can do to mitigate those threats. You have to respond if something happens, and then there's recovery. So briefly going through these, for vulnerabilities, you need to know, and I'm going to start by making this personal to you, and then we can expand out. What I will do is I will teach you or go over, make you aware of some of the things that these other agencies that are being done for you, but I'm going to keep trying to come back to how do you apply this for you first, and then expand to others. If you've ever flown on the airlines, what do they always tell you? If the mask drops, you don't take care of anyone else, you take care of yourself first, and then as you are able and willing to assist others. That's the same idea here. So we're going to keep that approach. I need you to know when you are most vulnerable. It's different for different people. Most of us feel safe in the building, but when you go outside, if it's dark, if you have a bunch of items that you're carrying versus you're just getting over to the metro or getting down to the Union Station as fast as you can, just going to the parking lot to your car. Some of you feel vulnerable getting to your car. Others it may be if you are the only one, if you're alone. Whatever that is for you, those are your vulnerabilities. Those are the things that when you are walking out at night or when you're walking out of the building or coming into the building, that's what initially raises your attention. What's going on here? Those are vulnerabilities for you. And the reason you have vulnerabilities is because of the next point. There are threats that are potentially out there. And I don't mean to make this sound like it's morbid and everyone's out to get you, but the fact is we live in an area, we live in a time where there are things that happen. This is where we are called to work. So this is where we're going to work. So we know what's out there. Identify and understand the threats. Number one thing we have here are robberies, thefts, there are assaults. We do have a homeless population that is in this area. And so there have been instances both fairly recently and just as recently as last week, just a couple blocks away from here, where someone assaulted someone right here walk on the street. They didn't do anything that's provoking, which is just so you know what's going to be out there. Some people in this area have some mental health issues, and believe it or not, we don't tend to talk about this one much anymore, but there's still that threat. And for those of you who are driving, hopefully you're not the threat, but cars, when pedestrians are trying to cross the street, and just DC traffic in general. So you need to know what the threats are that you may face. As far as mitigation, what are things that you can personally do to try and alleviate the chances of that happening? I like to, in a lighthearted moment, use the old Far Side commercial where there's a picture of 2 bears. It looks like someone has them inside the scope of their rifle. And 2 bears are sitting there, and the one bear is going, pointing at the next one, the guy over. You want to just make yourself, not necessarily point at your friend, it's not a good friend, but you want to make yourself less of a target. So things you can do to mitigate those chances, things that are to your benefit. Hands-free walking. That's not just putting a Bluetooth. Hands-free walking means you're not messing with anything in your hands. You have your hands available, so you use a backpack. If you're carrying things, as Jameson said, maybe in a rolling bag that you can have, so you can have as much freedom of movement as you can for yourself. Being always aware. If you notice, I have a slide that's a friend of mine. It's a friend of mine who volunteered for this photo. But I could have taken this photo any given day, at any of the streets nearby, and could have been the same person. How many times do you see people who aren't watching where they're going, whether it's driving or walking, because they're looking down at some little electronic device, or they're looking for something on a person. Make sure you're aware of your surroundings. And take a look at the best route. Recently, we've had some things like some demonstrations. There's always street closures if you commute in a personal vehicle, or delays. Different things that happen. You have to know when something happens, what's not only the best route, but what alternative routes you have. If something does happen, another consideration for you is how are you going to respond? What are you going to respond to? If someone comes up and approaches you, you see that there is a demonstration going on. I'd normally ask for a bunch of participation at this point, or I would pull out my own little whistle and blow it. For the sake of the audio video equipment, I will not blow the whistle. How are you going to draw attention to yourself? If something happens, just yelling and screaming, people yell and scream in this area at different times for no reason. So you need to have a plan, as we were talking about earlier. What is your plan? Usually fire, call 911, help, 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 or blowing a whistle. Usually tooting a whistle 2-3 times loud in a row. Once you've done that, run. You're doing good. When my kids were in self-defense, that's the first thing that their instructor taught them. Your best option in any fight is to run. Get away. You can't run. Then you have to take care of business the other way, is the way you respond. Call 911. If you have time, have the ability, you're not being held up, and so you phone, go ahead and call 911. Let someone know what's next. I will do so. And the last thing is work on recovery. If an event happens to you or that you know of in this area, there are resources that you have available. Most federal employees, we all have something called the Employee Assistance Program. If you are one of the tenants who does not have one of those, you probably have something available to you that is very similar, whether it's a counseling hotline or something. The Employee Assistance Program, though, has a lot of trained professionals, a lot of resources that are available for you to use both before, not so much during, but after, when you're trying to recover and get back to normal. Whether that's you had your phone and everything's stolen, or you had all your government-issued equipment was taken from you, or damaged or destroyed, what are you going to do from those matters? So 5 areas you want to know about your vulnerabilities, make sure you know what the threats are, mitigate as much as you can, know how you're going to respond, and how you're going to recover. What are we doing right now? Up here it says we're trying to, beyond that, what we're trying to do is make sure that you are better prepared, both individually and as a group. I was amazed when we started this out. I was going to do a small little presentation. But look at the group and the community of volunteers and partners that we have right here for this building and for this neighborhood that we work in. We're coming together and trying to do this. Start by taking care of yourself. Put your mask on first. Then, as you are able and willing, to help others. And that's what the group is doing. We're coming together, trying to make each other aware. And so what a good friend of mine told me was, he said, together we can do more for each other. What happened in our neighborhood? You guys know of all kinds of incidents that have been in the news. What started this presentation today was because of what happened July 4th right over here at the NoMa station in the metro. There was a homicide. Beyond that, just a few weeks later, there was a shooting in the apartments just across the street. Initially reported as a death, found out later it was a shooting, but nonetheless, people were on edge. There were things happening. We wanted to find out about other crime. Through some of the meetings and some of the things we heard in the news, we're hearing about the traditional things, narcotics, prostitution. I think we're up to almost 200 arrests in this area since they started about a month ago, trying to crack down. So awesome job by our law enforcement folks that are cracking down and making these arrests. But it's also a little unnerving for some of us. Other things that happen, not just in this area, where we've got the homeless, who we used to think were just down the Mission, but now they're underneath the bridges. And we have to evacuate, and we have to walk by right where they live while we're going to our evacuation point, our rally points. It's a little bit of unnerving, as you walk every day back and forth to Union Station. Near Union Station, between Union Station and 20 Mass, where some of us have headquarters and other buildings, you've got things of robbery, theft, the illegal narcotics we talked about, vehicle break-ins and theft. I got to make a point here that from what we read, most of the vehicle break-ins are on the street, and the theft is from people who are parking on the street, not in federal parking lots, because most of those are controlled or observed at least during business hours when most people are parking there. But you also have other crime in this area, and you have demonstrators. The Federal Energy Regulation Commission. Back here in May, for a whole month, they had people demonstrating and trying to protest. And for 1 week, they actually shut down the street almost every day. We want you to be aware of the things that are happening in your neighborhood. I don't want to go into all the statistics. If you want to find out more about the crime and the things that are happening in this area, there are websites. The MPD has a site where you go and get alerts every single day. I will warn you, be careful what you ask for. If you open up and you start getting those alerts, you will receive alerts every day, and you will see so much that is happening in this area. Your first reaction is going to be, oh my, oh, where do I start applying for another job? But what you need to take time to do is really start considering, where is it that we work? What is our community? What is happening here locally? And then start looking for trends, if there's true trends for this area. And what you'll find is it's not any different here really than anywhere else, other than you may not have the homeless population directly where you work, or you may not have one of the factors. But there are a number of factors that happen here. So besides the ones that normally people talk about in the news all the time, we did a little bit of research as to what are the factors that can contribute to upticks in crime like we've seen this summer. And if you'll notice, you're going to think that we did it specifically for this area, but none of these were dedicated to just Washington, D.C. or to NoMa. These areas here, new retail businesses, construction in the area, home services, people with mental health issues, on down the line. None of those are specific to D.C., with the exception of possibly we are at increased risk due to the fact that there's a possibility for the national news impact. If it happens in D.C., New York, or certain places in California, it tends to hit the news all the time with it. So we want you to be aware, but I don't want to focus on the factors that are contributing to some of the crime. We want to move on to more of what are we doing to combat it. Good news is we've got the DHS Federal Protective Services right here. Federal Protective Services, their mission is to protect not just the buildings or the assets, we are assets, by the way, but all the people who work in these buildings as well. So even if you are not a federal employee, or if we have guests or we have visitors who are in the building, those folks are here to protect us. They are here to provide all the security and things while we are here on the property, or things that happen in the immediate area. That is good news for all of us, and it's an added benefit if you don't have to be a federal employee. This slide, I want to make sure that you know, is USCIS specific. One of the agencies and one of the primary tenants in this building, we have 3 or 3.5 floors, depending on who you talk to, belong to the Department of Homeland Security, the U.S. Citizenship and Immigration Service. So because of that, we try and make sure that these folks know there's another agency or another headquarters unit that also works with the agencies already listed to provide security for this building and for our employees. And it's managed through the Office of Security Integrity. Most of you know field security not by their headquarters, office where they reside at 111 Mass. So you know them through the headquarters ID unit where you have to go get your ID tags all the time, and or you know that they've got field security managers. If you have not had a chance to meet him, the field security manager for this building and for 1200 First Street is Eugene, or he goes by Gene Melanson. He'll be over a little bit later today, and you guys can meet him in the exterior. And he comes by periodically to walk the floors and to talk with people if you have questions as well. The other people we have are Protective Intelligence. They do a lot of behind-the-scenes stuff for us, so we don't have to worry about those folks as much. But we also have the Emergency Management and Safety Branch. Those people work in conjunction with these other security teams in order to do both the occupant emergency plan. If something happens here, you have to shelter in place or you have to evacuate, and what to do during an emergency. Those are the kinds of plans that they help oversee, as well as the occupational safety and health. So they look at overall building different kinds of ways to mitigate any issues or hazards that we have. Beyond just USCIS employees, though, every employee, it's not just these other agencies who have the responsibility for our security. Every employee has a responsibility. So the next items that we're going to talk about in the next, this slide and the next, include both people or roles or programs that you need to be familiar with as an individual employee. First one is the designated official. For here at 131 M Street, like we said before, that is the highest ranking official in the EEOC. We always look at the highest highest federal employee position that is here on the property. The one that you're probably more familiar with is your Facility Security Committee representative. If there are anyone else in the room besides myself and Scott, please raise your hand. What they do is every tenant has a person who goes to a meeting. Once a month we meet and we talk about the issues that are facing this building. We incorporate the crime trends, the issues that have happened, the employee concerns that we receive, and the issues that we've noticed within the building, and we discuss with these outside agencies and partners how we're going to address them and try and keep people safe specific to our building. In addition, your local security officer. It just so happens the same two people are going to raise their hand again. As a local security officer, we are usually not full-time law enforcement or full-time trained positions. These are collateral duty positions for us. And what we do is we work with these other agencies. We go and we serve on the committees, and we try and be representative so that in your work area, if something happens, you have a local point of contact to go grab or to go ask questions of. And then we'll try and work with the first responders, and we'll try and work with the other people to ensure that your needs, your safety, and concerns are addressed. Occupant Emergency Program, I put this as an individual responsibility because we can write all the plans we want, stick them up on the shelf and say, woohoo, we did a great job. What happens as soon as that alarm goes off? If you don't know what's going on, she said exactly right, panic. You know, oh crap, what am I going to do? Oh my gosh, what are we going to do? It's your responsibility to find out where is that OEP? What is it? Where is my shelter-in-place location? What does that even mean? If I have to evacuate, do I grab my stuff? What do I take with me? And once I get to where I'm going, who do I contact? You have a responsibility to know those items, and or here's what normally happens. Does it ever go off here in this building when you are sitting at your desk and you've known it was coming and it was going to be just a perfect time because you were just heading out for lunch? No, it always happens when you are in another building or you're on another floor or you're somewhere else where you're not right where your go bag or your information is. You just have to get out and you have to figure out, where do I go from here? By knowing ahead of time, as I said before, having a plan, you know what to do. And lastly, personal responsibility. If you see something, say something. How many times have you just opened up that door and let someone in and never looked to see if they had an ID card? You don't know who they are. In the instance that happened in the apartments across the way, one of their barriers broke down. They let someone in the building. They had barriers in place where would normally not allow someone to come in. This person didn't present the ID or anything, but they just said, hey, I'm just trying to go see a friend. Someone let them in. You have a personal responsibility, not just to yourself, but to everyone else that works in this building. We have security procedures in place for a reason. Make sure you follow them. Is it fun? No. Is it a hassle? At times. But it's there for security, and it's there for a reason, because other people can do bad things. So we want to make sure it's there. See a bag lying around? Make sure you identify it. Make sure you talk to someone. Talk to your supervisor. Talk to an LSO. Talk to one of the security guards. Talk to someone else in one of the employees. Find out what's going on. Don't recognize someone walking through in your floor. It may be a little embarrassing, but the way I go back and say, hi, don't think I've met you yet. I'm a little new. I'm trying to learn everyone. My name is. Just a simple, friendly conversation like that. They usually look at you weird. They'll maybe make a comment or two, but then they'll show you their ID and they'll go on and do that. In other areas, not just getting in the building, not just getting into the elevator, but someone's deal with cash. Someone's deal with a lot of private information, personal information. Some of us have classified areas where we have to go in behind closed doors, or we have specialized equipment and materials we have to deal with. Know what your security procedures are. Printing off something that has someone's personal information and leaving it out, that's a no-no. Make sure you know what the procedures are and how to report it and who to report it to if those things pop up. Last part I've got for the theory. I told you I was going to talk about agency, what these groups do, and then we're going to make it a little personal. From an agency perspective, we follow this rule of the defense in depth model. So these groups, they start outward, and they start making layers of defense coming in a little closer. So on our perimeter, most federal buildings, they either have a fence, or they have landscaping, or they have guards, or they have some sort of perimeter defense. Coming in a little closer, we do things like the gates. We have the lighting. We have landscaping. Only certain entrances to any of our buildings, and they're either coded or they are manned to where people have to have one layer of security. Once we get inside, we have people who greet them. Wonderful guards, the folks that are there up front to check visitors in, the folks at the loading dock who also check the packages and the vendors who come in to make sure that they are on the approved lists, that any packages they try and bring in are scanned to the best of their ability, and that we do all protection. Then we have to have a key or a special code to get into the elevators, and then on your floor, it's so annoying when you forget your card, but there's a reason for that. That layer defense, and then even within your cube, it's that way. Now, taking on a personal level, I want to do just the opposite. I want to start internal and move out. Your inner core, the thing you're really trying to protect, is not your cash, and it's not your phone. It is this body, this flesh and blood that you call you. Outside of that, you probably have your closest personal items. That's where you keep your wallet, you keep your IDs, you keep your rings, you keep your things that are real personal. Next layer out, you have clothing to help protect you from the elements, different things you have, or as our law enforcement folks have, they have specialized equipment that they use or they need to have outside them. In addition, you have your vision, you have your senses, you have your arms. Most people, if I were, do you mind coming up just a second? Most people, if I get closer than this, they start feeling a little uncomfortable. If I get really close, closer I get, and notice I'm even leaning back because I'm a little uncomfortable. Keep a little bit of distance. All that is the same mindset of this layered defense. We want you to have that sort of layered defense. Thank you. All right, I've been talking for a while, so let's get a few tips and techniques. You guys have probably seen these, but what are some good things that you can do? If you say you feel safe when you're in the building, then most time it's while you're transporting yourself to and from work, while you're doing your commute, what are some things you can do? I have a bag such as this, whether it's a backpack or a laptop bag, and I'm doing mass transit, not in a personal vehicle, mass transit. I can put my foot through the strap when I'm sitting down, and I can put the bag between my legs. More protection. If I just have my bag sitting on the side or sitting in the aisle or a seat next to me, it's an easy opportunity for a quick snatch and grab. So make sure you do some things that can help protect you. Sit or stand in the middle of the car. More crowded, harder to get off at your exit, especially on some of those metro shops where they come and doors are closing even before they've gotten fully open. But it's a little more safe and a little more secure for you. Be aware of your surroundings. And write down the manufacturer of every important piece of equipment. Most time people try and say that is for their issued equipment, but you also have your phones, you have different things that are important to you. Make sure you have that, including your driver's license number and different things like that, and store that somewhere else. Always a good idea. Things that might increase your chances of having to respond or recover. In other words, these are not good things to do. Sit next to the door on the train or any public transportation. Display your equipment, whether it's issued or personal, to a passing opportunist. Use your phone to discuss business, typical operational security or communication security. Always be mindful of your surroundings. And finally, don't be a security leak by letting others view. I've seen more people on the VRE that I ride who just open up their laptop, sit there, have a conversation. It's like their own personal business office. And there's information and topics that we should not be hearing in public based on what they talk about. All right. For those of you who are viewing or watching this from elsewhere, it might be a little bit harder to see. For those of you here in the room, take a look at this picture. Time for you guys to give me a little bit of information. You guys see anything with this picture? Anything that's wrong? Walking down the street just with a cell phone. It's good. In an alley. All right. I don't have candy to throw out. That's not the purpose of to entertain, but that's the number one thing. Starting out by being in an alley by themselves. That is not a good thing any time of day. And not because everything's bad or something's definitely going to happen, but you're just making the opportunity that much more likely of something happening. All right, distractions and a bad location. And that's what you mentioned earlier about having a cell phone. For those of you who can't see, I'm going to put up another picture here. I apologize for the quality, and I did mention at the beginning that this is a friend of mine, but I just wanted you to be able to see a little bit better picture, have an opportunity to see what are some of the things you see. And this could be any person walking down any street, any day that we have here. Sorry, you said hands aren't free. Has a headset on, laptop, ID sticking out. Why are those issues? One of the things the group said is because of the headphones, he's not going to be able to be aware of his surroundings. Can't hear if someone's approaching him from in front or back or anything like that. Makes him an easy target. Why? Got it. If you could not hear that, the answer was he is just totally unaware because he has both hands full, has the headphones on, so there is no way he can do anything but just say, rob me. He's an easy target. All right. Just in case you didn't get all the answers, I put them up here. Hey, look, you had earbuds. That's one person you said. You had the phone, had the ID card. Why is this an issue? What do you mean? What if they steal the ID? I just go to the ID shop and get a new one, right? It's no big deal. It has personal information, or what are people trying to do all the time? Trying to find ways to break systems or to get around things either just because or because they sometimes have malintent. This card is used quite widely among the federal government. So if you have your personal data out, your information out, it says a lot about you. It says who you are, who you work with, and if anyone's familiar with some of the symbols and some of the stuff on here, it can say some things about you that you don't want people to know, and it makes you an easier target. Likewise, laptop being out, it's just an easy, all I got to do is bump into you, grab it, and go. And it's like, if you're approached and someone does that, what do? Do you chase after them? You may be inclined to do that, but our law enforcement friends are going to tell you, let it go, just call them and make the report, because all that stuff can be replaced. Even if they get your PIV card and they get the information, we all have procedures in place for all of the USCIS members. Talk to your local security officer, report to your supervisor. We have to do a report within a certain time frame. You have to go fill out exactly what happened. You may have to call FPS and do a report, but all the information is there, but we have procedures to do. All right, you guys did great with that. And I also saw that at least 2 of you noticed that some of the bullets changed. That's good awareness on your part. We weren't trying to do it just to be standardized, but when you see the different bullets, when something just wasn't the same, it was a little off, 2 of you sort of did this number, looking and squinting, why is it different? Good. That's what I want you to be doing. If you're not standing and just happy in your own world looking down, you're got your head on the swivel, so to speak, you're always looking out, you're going to be more aware of what's not right. You may not know exactly what it is right away, but when you know something's not right, it should send off a signal in your head, I need to be aware. Some good things, and I'm just going to run through these very quickly, but there are things that you need to be aware of and follow. Avoid confrontations. Maintain that safe distance. Let's not get real close and up close and friendly. Remain calm and peer neutral. Even if a questioner try to engage you, refuse the request or don't engage. Just keep walking. Now, does that mean you got to be that 1,000-yard stare and not ever look at anyone? No. When you pass people in the street, common is to nod or to say hi, and then just smile and keep walking. But don't stop. Never stop walking. Just keep moving and refuse or resist any temptation to stop and engage. If you perceive a threat, unsafe situation may be escalating, take another route. Leave the area. Seek assistance. If I can reach my whistle, I'm going to start blowing it, and I don't care how silly I look or people do it. I'm going to make sure I do that. When possible, use the buddy system to walk with the coworker, especially if you feel vulnerable or at those times when you think your risk might be increased. Also, the guys in the orange shirts that are sitting outside here, NoMa bid, they have this thing called the Ambassador Program. If you haven't heard about it, go talk to them. Anytime, before 9 p.m., call them up. They will escort you. Doesn't matter who you are. Even a big burly guy, like over here in the corner, they will gladly escort you or assist you anywhere in the NoMa bid area. So it's not just a metro, not just here. Anytime you have to go anywhere, good things to do. Look ahead. If you can see this situation happening in front of you. The other day when that person started accosting people and ended up assaulting 6 different people, right here, just a few blocks away is where it started, I happened to be walking by right about the time that he started that with one of the first victims. I did not know it at the time. I just knew there was commotion happening as a result. I veered my course, one street over, and took a different route and continued on my way. Always be aware so you can avoid things. Hands-free isn't just about the headsets, as we said. Keep your hands available. If you need to get away, you need to knock someone away, kind of hard to do it if you've got all this stuff in your hands and you've got all these materials. Make sure your hands are free whenever possible. Scream, blow a whistle, run, anything you can do. Things not to do. Sometimes these are things you want to do. Don't argue. Don't try and verbally confront. especially an antagonist. It's not your place to necessarily try and calm them down or to intervene in the situation. What you can do is contact the law enforcement, local folks who can come in to assist, and they are trained and equipped to do it a lot better than you and I are. Don't stop walking. Don't overload yourself by trying to carry too much. Take a second load or make arrangements to bring your car inside that federally protected parking lot or inside like PMI lot right behind us where we have secure access to, and then take 2 loads to your car if need be. Those kind of little things will make a big difference. Sounds easy, but don't flash all your stuff saying, here, come take all my stuff. Just put it away. Don't offer food or money that will encourage panhandling. I'm going to wrap it up with this part. I'm a man of faith. I'm a man who wants to help others. When I see people who are in need, my initial reaction is I want to help. I won't ask for a show of hands, but I can tell you that I have bought food in the past. I have given cash in the past. I've heard their sob story. I've heard whatever their life story is in the past. I don't do it anymore because what I learned is I actually contacted the mission. I said, I want to really help the right way. I talked to one of our local guards who said, some of these people, because this is in our area, some of these people are on diets, they have allergies, they're on medications. You don't know what they've been going through, and maybe some of them haven't eaten in days, longer time, and haven't been eating much. If you go plop that nice Big Mac that you bought, or that big greasy sandwich that you got in all the drinks, you could be actually causing more harm than damage. If you have cash, you don't know what the cash is going for. It may go for exactly what they told you it was. It may be going for illegal drugs, maybe going for other things, which is part of the core issues that we're having in this area. So please be aware and resist. The last two I think we've hit 1,000 times, but we keep putting it up here because it's a recurring issue. All right. Here's some of the things that these agencies do. Whenever there's an incident, we get together, either individual agencies and or collectively as a group, and sharing information. We do what we call an after action. We'll go find out what happened, who, what, where, when, if we can determine why or what the response is, what kind of lessons learned we can take from that, what kind of other actions we can take. We do awareness training such as today. We do communication. Whatever your home agency is, they should put out communication. They should put out guidance. They should put out different newsletters, pamphlets. I know in this building, the LSOs are really trying to get the information out along with the safety officers to provide good tips, techniques, and ways you can get alerts about things that are going on in this area. FPS, in response to a simple request from us about what's happening here recently, they have increased some of their secondary patrols. If you haven't noticed, there's an extra passage of vehicles, and or you've seen from another agency, the bicyclists, the bicycle cops that are coming through. There's more patrols in this area because they want to show everyone in this area they are trying to watch out for us. There are things that we can do as well. We keep doing the engagement with each other. This event is a good one to see what we do. We're working together as a community. If I can keep hitting something hard throughout this presentation, we want each of us to do the same thing, individually and taking care of each other. Contacts for USCIS staff. There are some specific contacts here. I can make sure that this is available to any of the USCIS employees who want this later. But there are different places you can contact for more information or to learn more individually or to report things as a group. Everyone, a couple contacts here we'd like you to use. DC Metropolitan Police Department links. I told you to be careful what you ask for on some of them. Get the news, be informed, and make a plan for you. It's a good way to do this. We already talked about the number of boat ambassadors for the escort. Good phone number. If you need it, contact any of us that are involved in the presentation today, and we'll make sure we get that email back out, or contact the gentleman right out here in the orange shirts. They offer that. All you need is 15 minutes, usually less, but about 15 minutes notification before you want to go somewhere, and they'll come right here and pick you up at the front door. We do have multiple agencies in here. We have just a few minutes, but if you guys have any questions, feel free to ask. What we ask you is we ask you to use the microphone, and either myself or one of our agency partners will assist, and we'll ask them to come to the microphone too if there are any questions.
Does anybody have any questions?
All right.
All right. All right, the next briefing is going to be 5 after. It's going to be active shooter, how to respond. Go ahead and take a break, mingle, and pass the word. Let's get some more people down here. Thanks.